Hello there, welcome to the RetroSaber podcast, where we always take the high ground. And today I wanted to try something a little bit different. I'd been thinking of doing something similar for quite a while. Something where I get people to post questions, just throw ideas out there, and then I respond to them. But it's been quite tricky to find a format to do that. A lot of times when creators do that, it's usually on things like Twitter. So instead what I decided to do was go look on the internet for questions that were already out there, that people had asked either recently or a year ago, and the majority of them I found were on Reddit. So I scoured Reddit and I've picked out 11 questions that we've thrown out into the internet that I'm going to answer. So here we go. So Espona Mum asks, what was the first game you played? Where on your first playthrough you knew it was going to be unlike any other game, and what's been your fave so far? Well, I think the first game that I've ever played that I really knew it was going to be something completely different would have to be Resident Evil 2 when I played that on the Nintendo 64. I'd been a Nintendo gamer my whole life, so the majority of my games fit that Nintendo vibe. Don't get me wrong, there were some different types of games, but so many of them were bright, colourful, vivid. There was violence in games like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, stuff like that, maybe even Doom. But on playing Resident Evil 2, it was completely different. I felt like a complete, excuse the term, noob. I felt entirely unprepared for what I was doing, and I really had to learn a completely new way to game. I remember the first time I played it, I just tried to shoot my way through, and I must have restarted the game about 10 times before I eventually rang my friend and said, I keep running out of ammo, I keep running out of health. And he said, don't try and shoot them, just run away. It hadn't even occurred to me, and from that moment on I knew that this was something completely different that I was going to have to acclimatise to. As for that last bit, what's been your favourite game so far? That would be impossible to answer, but Resident Evil games in general, and especially those earlier ones, I absolutely loved. Some weird guy 2112 asks, which is your favourite Pokemon? Well, I may blow some minds here, but I never really played the Pokemon games, not at all. I've seen them being played, I know roughly how they play, but no, I never played them, so I don't really know a great deal. However, I have seen some of the movies, and I will say Mewtwo. Even from a graphical design, the way the character looks, I think Mewtwo is really cool for the look of a character. So I'm gonna say him, and that's as much as I can give you. Crimson Sword asks, tips for a person looking to make a YouTube account. Well, first of all, Crimson Sword, I'm aware that this question came a year ago, so hopefully you've already done it. But I think everyone's journey is slightly different. I suppose things to avoid would be getting into sub for sub type situations. Try and find people who are in the same area that you're doing. So, for example, I found that rather than doing sub for sub, finding other gaming communities were really helpful because it were people that were going to actually engage with my content. I could engage with theirs. Over time, maybe even form collaborations. So stuff like that is really helpful. Also, I would suggest having content made way in advance of starting your channel. If you're able to make a fair whack of content that you can post in advance, do so. Have some very clear ideas of what you want to make your content about. Make sure you use things like hashtags and stuff correctly. Find the right time of week to post for your stuff. And also think about what you want your channel to be. I found that when I started posting shorts, I got lots and lots more subscribers. But the vast majority of those subscribers don't actually interact with the live streams or the long form videos because they're specifically there for short stream type content. So just be aware of what it is that you're looking for, and just make sure you make content that fits that niche. But the most important thing is just make sure you enjoy it. you're not going to get rich on YouTube. The majority of people don't. You're talking a very, very small minority. So your best chance of this being something positive in your life is that whether you have 2 subscribers or 2 million, you enjoy what you're doing anyway. If you're doing that, you've already won. Snow2 asks, how often do you play a character of the opposite biological gender to you? Well, first of all, whenever they're the main character in a game, it makes absolutely no bearing to me whether I'm playing as male or female. That just doesn't really factor in. I don't really find it important because nothing else in the game is real, so why would that matter? So if the character is biologically female already, then that's what I'll play as. If there's options in a game, it will depend. For example, in the Resident Evil games, a great deal of the time, you're presented with 2 characters, and usually it's a male and a female. So it will just come down to which character I'm most interested in. For example, in Resident Evil 1, I always tend to play as Jill because I find Chris as a character quite boring. But in Resident Evil 2, I choose Leon. That said, Claire Redfield is one of my favourite characters, and it's why I love Resident Evil Code Veronica X so much, because you get to play as her. Usually if it's a creator character, I tend to make both. For example, in Destiny 2, I have 3 characters. My main is a male warlock, but my hunter and titan are both female. So, yeah, I'd probably say near 50-50, but it really doesn't factor into me. Fair question, though. Dear Therazino asks, what song in a video game gives you the most nostalgia? This one is really tricky, but I've got a fair few that come to mind. I would have to say that the music to Super Mario Brothers is the most nostalgic to me. That's the most iconic. But the intro music to Super Mario 64 is also really, really iconic. That bit on the waiting screen when you're selecting which profile you're using, that bit just really hits me in the feels. I think most of the Resident Evil games, the safe rooms with the typewriter and stuff in, when you're in those rooms, the music kicks in. It just takes me back to suddenly feeling safe, which I absolutely love. I would also have to say Immortal by Edema, which was featured in, I think it was Mortal Kombat Deception. Deadly Alliance, I think it was, sorry, on the GameCube. And on the actual disc, you actually had the music video to that song, and I used to listen and watch that music video over and over again. So that really takes me back. I think in general, though, one answer I'd have to give, which isn't a song, but it's just a game, GTA Vice City. The music in that game, from the sort of loading screen music all the way to the actual songs that play when you're driving around, listening to the radios, that gives me proper nostalgic feels, not just for gaming, but for the 80s, which is literally the era I was born in. So, yeah, damn good question. Princess Hoothoot, fantastic name, asks, do you think there will ever be an Arkham or Sony Spider-Man level quality Superman game? So, no, I don't. And the simple reason for that is that the reason that Batman and Spider-Man work so well is that they are really, really interesting characters, not just because of their abilities, but because of their flaws. Batman especially is entirely human. He has to hide in the shadows. He's a great fighter, so he can get in there and do the beat-em-up stuff. The equipment and tools he has lend themselves well to leveling up. Spider-Man also, despite being fast, athletic, and strong, he does have limits. Superman is limitless. Superman can just fly away. He has unlimited strength. He is completely bulletproof. Yes, there's the idea he has a weakness. It's kryptonite. Dude, the rest of us, like a big fall, a bullet, standing on a nail, stubbing our toe is our kryptonite. Kryptonite is a very finite resource. Don't give me that nonsense. Superman is just too all-powerful. In order to make a really compelling game for Superman, you would have to limit his powers dramatically, or put him in a situation where everyone else that he's fighting against has the same powers, in which case it's not really Superman, or what's the point of it being Superman? He might as well just be a person. I think a different type of game, potentially, a Telltale game, something along those lines, could have merit. I'm not saying that there'd never be a good Superman game, but for that type of game, I just don't personally see it. Gloomy Support 7779 says, name a gaming series you're interested in but have never played. Well, I can't really. I'm 44, so any game I'm interested in, I've played. Any gaming series I'm interested in, I have at least come close. I've tried, I've given it a go. But I would probably say the best answer I can give is Silent Hill. I've only played one Silent Hill game. That was on the PlayStation Portable. I think it was Silent Hill Origins or something along those lines anyway. And I didn't play very much into it. I think I got it, played about an hour or two into it, and it was not long after that my PSP actually broke and stopped working properly. Thanks, Sony. That said, I love the original Silent Hill movie. The second one was kind of garbage, but still, I found the idea, the concept, the franchise, the location absolutely fascinating. I've looked back into some of the earlier Silent Hill games, the logic behind the way the games were designed, and I definitely find those interesting. So while it's not a game I haven't played any of, it's not a game I've ever really given enough time and attention to. So yeah, I'll go with that one. Consistent Barber 61 asks, who was the coolest partner that you ever had playing any game and covered your weak spots? Well, I don't want to be too obvious with this one, but I'm going to say the Gaming Lord 04, fellow YouTuber, my nephew in real life, and yeah, I will say him. The reason for that, and so it's totally genuine, this isn't just me saying that, is that when I used to play games when I was younger, usually played 1v1, or if I played alongside someone, we were usually about the same level, relatively the same skills. There wasn't a great deal of mix of skills in games back then, so however you played, it was fine, or you played against each other. I think what I found with more online games that are co-op now is that I have a particular set of skills, not to sound too much like Liam Neeson. I charge in, I cause chaos, I kill loads of things, I throw loads of grenades, and I inevitably die. The Gaming Lord 04 is a lot more tactical and has certainly a specific knowledge of certain types of games. So when we play Star Wars Battlefront, when we play Destiny 2, the areas I struggle at, he knows quite well. So yeah, and certainly Destiny 2 is a game he is far better at and more experienced at than me. So if I'm trying to do something that I'm struggling with, he'll usually be able to help me get through it. And at the same time, sometimes if he needs an extra partner to play, I'll help him through it. But I would certainly put him as the person that meets that criteria most. Berry Fantastic asks, what's your favourite movie tie-in game? As a bonus, you can also name your least favourite. Well, my favourite movie tie-in game is going to be GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64. It probably doesn't stand up as well now as it did when it was released, but as movie tie-ins go, it was probably the best ever made. There's been some other fantastic ones. Aladdin on the SNES and Mega Drive was really good. Loads of the Star Wars ones have been really good. There's been loads of really good tie-in movies, games. But for me, GoldenEye is a fantastic game, not just a fantastic movie tie-in game. A lot of the others are good for tie-in games to a movie. This one would have just been a world-class game on its own. As for worst, I haven't got one that comes to mind, but I do know that the game that is considered the worst game of all time is a movie tie-in, that being E.T. for, I think, the Atari 2600. So bad that they took copies of it out into the desert and buried them so no one else could ever play it. That pretty much answers that one for you. Dex TDM, I'm not even going to be able to try and pronounce that name, asks, has a video game ever made you cry? Well, I've never cried through rage quitting or anything like that, but I'm not usually a very cry type person, if I'm honest, but it has happened. I believe Assassin's Creed Origins, there's a whole sort of underlying narrative of his son's been murdered. There's flashbacks to him seeing his son, the connections with his wife, but also they're estranged because they're both prioritising avenging their son. That got me a couple of times. I'll openly admit to becoming tearful playing some games nostalgia-wise because it took me back. I actually remember playing, when I went back to play GTA Vice City, just listening to the music and closing my eyes, a tear did fall. Not sadness, but just genuine, oh, it's so nice being back. I had a similar feeling going back and playing Ocarina of Time. And certainly when there's games that I've sometimes played that have reminded me of playing games with my mum when I was younger. So yes, it has happened. It's very rare, but yeah, the answer would be yes. God of Hammers, suitable name, asks, what is the best or most iconic weapon in gaming? Well, I think obviously people will have their own individual favourites, and each generation will say, surely this weapon from this game. But people from previous or later generations, in most cases, probably won't even know it, or know of it, or certainly know why it's iconic. I think for me, the easiest answer would have to be the Master Sword from Zelda. This same weapon had been seen going back to 8-bit consoles, all the way up to the current Nintendo Switch. It's been not just seen in Zelda games, it's been seen in Super Smash Bros. It featured in Animal Crossing. It was in Soul Calibur, those games. Zelda was the sort of cameo character for one of the Soul Calibur games on the Nintendo GameCube. So for me, that weapon, and it hasn't really changed in design at all. Like they've improved the way it looks, but on the whole, the design of the sword is still the same. You can go to an armory in York. This is a place that makes replica swords, and they will have all kinds of iconic weapons from movies and cartoons. They always have a Master Sword there. So I would absolutely say that is the most iconic weapon. Another one that I would give a shout out to is the BFG gun from Doom, but I don't think that can really be compared on the same level because Doom came out so much later, and that gun's appearance has changed numerous times. And I think Doom is kind of little bit more of a niche audience than Zelda. So Zelda, the Master Sword, absolutely. I would even point out that some of the Zelda games existed off of Nintendo. There was some of them on what I think was the Sony CDI, and elsewhere. So absolutely, the Master Sword from Zelda is hands down, I believe, the most iconic weapon in all of gaming. Now, I'll be honest, after I was doing that, I kind of got into it. I was really quite enjoying it. So I actually threw a post out on YouTube asking people to post any further questions they had. And I did get a couple of responses, so here we go. Hardly Quinn asks, what are top 5 characters that you would like to see come back in future games? Well, I'm going to deliberately avoid anyone who I already think has had plenty of games. So the characters I would say would be, first of all, Claire Redfield from the Resident Evil games. I think she's one of the best characters in the franchise, and I'm always down to see more games with her in. I'm also going to say that from Assassin's Creed Origins, Bayek has to be a character I would love to see again. I love that game in general, and as much as his story has fully been told, I would certainly love to see more of him. One of my favourite games ever was GTA Vice City, and I'd love to see Tommy Vercetti again. Whether that be prequel stuff, no, we had Vice City Stories, but still. Or whether that be when we have GTA 6, do we maybe meet him as an older man in the game? That would be awesome. Going back into the Resident Evil franchise, you had that guy who was sort of like a vendor. I can't remember what he was called. I think, oh, it was the merchant. Well, something like that. Anyway, him. He just randomly popped up in Resident Evil 4 and kept trying to sell you things, saying, "What are you buying? What are you selling?" I'd love to have him come back in and maybe actually reveal more about his backstory, his life. That would be really cool. And I think my last one would be, I think her name was Arden Lynn. She was in a PlayStation game, a Star Wars one called Masters of Terraskazi, which was basically a Star Wars one-on-one fighting game. And she was an original character, I think the only fully original character in the game. I'd love to see her come back in a newer Star Wars game, or hell, even turn up in Star Wars in general. Free Worlds RP160 says, what's two game franchises you would love to see doing a crossover? I have an easy answer for this. In the same way we have had GTA Vice City, GTA San Andreas, I would love to see GTA Raccoon City. Make it play out similar to a GTA game. We just have a big map that's a Raccoon City map. You can go up to the mansion, you can go to the police station, and just make it look. It's not going to be canon to either, obviously, but just have it play out. Either one of the characters from the other game, like the GTA games, comes to Raccoon City. You could have it so that at the start of the game you're just in the city, and as things start unfolding, it could play out episode by episode, mission by mission, and unlock areas. People become more and more infected in the same way the Vice City and all the GTA games have it. When you use the cheat code, the game starts going a bit crazy. Have it work like that. All of a sudden cars keep crashing into each other and all kinds of stuff is going on, but it's because of the spread of the infection. You could even have a game mode in it just called Nemesis, where the aim of the game is to survive. Maybe even make that the aim of the game is, complete as many missions as you can. But past a certain point, the aim of the game is to survive as long as you can, or until help arrives. Whichever. But I think that would be awesome. You could even have a game mode where if you're bitten and you become a zombie, you can carry on playing as a zombie and just go around and keep spreading the infection. And maybe that could be an online game mode, like a multiplayer mode, is you've got a few of you in an area and you've got to see who's the last one to survive. I think that'd be awesome. And whoa, then out of nowhere, Muppet Features throws 3 questions in. Which is your favourite Pac-Man ghost? I'm probably going to go with Clyde, just because I think, considering all the others, their names rhyme. So Clyde's the awkward one, so I'm going to go with Clyde, which I think is the yellow one. And then you've said, how would you rank Sonic, Mario, and Crash Bandicoot, and why? I think, unfortunately for him, Crash Bandicoot comes in 3rd in that one. PlayStation exclusive, has had some good games, and is a really good character, but I just don't think has the longevity. Then I would go with Sonic. Had games going all the way back to the 8-bit consoles, all the way up to now. But he has to finish below Mario. Mario existed before Mario games existed. He was in Donkey Kong. Mario has had so much success right across the board, so many different types of games, spin-off games, and I just think better games than either of the other two. And quite frankly, Mario beat Sonic because Mario did beat Sonic. The fact that Nintendo is still thriving, not just as a company, but as a console, whereas Sega isn't. The fact that Sonic games are now on the Nintendo tells you everything you need to know. So Mario first, then Sonic, then Crash Bandicoot still coming in a very respectable third. And then your other question says, last one, what is the first game you ever played? Ooh, this one's a tough one. I think if it's the first game of any type, I would probably say it would have to be in the arcades. I remember playing games like Operation Wolf, WWF Wrestling Challenge, and probably one of the old Star Wars games. On an actual console, though, I actually had a Commodore 64, and I had a Batman game for that, which was, I think, the first actual game I bought for it, which was just, I don't think I appreciated it at the time. I would love to go back and play it now. One of the games I used to play a lot back then as well was Quick Snacks, which was like a sort of a maze puzzle game with this little egg called Dizzy, who had a whole series of games. Absolute class. So I am going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much to the people who commented questions directly to me on YouTube. For those that missed that stat, I did only leave it up for a few hours, so don't worry. And if you've got questions you'd like me to answer in future videos like this, do throw a comment down below or on any other video. I see every single comment. So if you have questions for another one of these, or if you'd specifically like me to do another one of these, searching Reddit for questions that people have asked, again, let me know below. Also, let me know below if you've got any other ideas of topics or things you'd like me to do in future podcasts. And that'll pretty much do it. I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Look after yourselves, and until next time, take the high ground.